In this video, I'm going to tell you every team's best player of the season so far. This may not be based on the stats, but just more who has contributed to their team's success the most and who fits their system the best. Remember, you don't necessarily have to agree with all of them, but let me know which ones you think I got wrong in the comments below. Let's begin. Arsenal, and it's probably not who you think. I've not gone for Bukayo Saka. Instead, I've gone for Declan Rice. After making his £100 million move from West Ham, he has settled into this Arsenal team like a glove. In the absence of Thomas Partey, he's certainly made that CDM role his own, and if he wasn't one of the best midfielders in the league already, he certainly is now. The Englishman has the second most amount of minutes out of anyone in that Arsenal squad, only beaten by Saliba, and he averages 2 tackles per game. But what's really made me put him on this list is because of his attacking output. He's on par with the likes of Martinelli and Kai Havertz with 10 goal contributions, and he's a CDM. Aston Villa. What would you do without Kins? Do you see what I did there? Yes, it's Ollie Watkins. I think McGinn and Louise were the only people that I also considered for this, but let's be honest, Watkins has been incredible so far this season. The 28-year-old has started every game of the season so far under Unai Emery in that 4-2-2 formation, often playing alongside the likes of Diaby or Leon Bailey up top. Under Steven Gerrard, we often saw Watkins drift out into that left wing position and almost become a creator for the likes of Danny Ings, but now we are seeing him a lot more centrally, and the stats prove why. With his whopping 26 goal contributions made of 16 goals and 10 assists across 27 games. That's a lot of goal returns in only 27 games. But what's actually the most incredible thing about him so far this season is his creativity in the Aston Villa attacks. Each game he averages 0.38 assists, which is significantly more than his expected 0.13, meaning he's just creating as well as scoring, and it doesn't look like he's being stopped anytime soon. The question is, does he stay at Aston Villa next season, or does he get his big money move to somewhere maybe like Arsenal? Aston Villa fans, let me know in the comments below, do you think he's going to stay next season? I think he should. I think he's like the perfect man for Aston Villa. Bournemouth, and there's no surprise here, it's Dominic Solanke. He is in so many ways Bournemouth's best player, and whilst Iraola seems to be getting the best out of a lot of his players, Solanke is just by far the best. Iraola loves his team to press high, and Solanke definitely epitomises this as he leads the line and starts the press for the rest of the team to follow, and no player in the league so far this season has made more presses in the final third than he has. But he also just seems to be taking his chances a lot more. He's averaging 0.54 goals a game, which is almost 3 times what he averaged last season, where he averaged 0.19, which is quite a big jump. But that has helped him get his 14 goals this season. He's on fire. Brentford, I'm going with Christian Norgard. While the Bees are struggling for form this season, I think Norgard has gone under the radar a little bit. Since we've seen Tony come back, obviously we've seen the talisman that they did lack up front while he was out, but I think credit needs to go to that Brentford midfield. The Dane averages 49 passes per 90 with an 80.2 success rate. And due to them playing this 3-5-2 formation quite often, a lot of their attacking transition and dribbles go through the fullbacks such as Ruaslev and Reguilon, so Norgard is often tasked with being the more defensive midfielder, and he only averages 0.2 dribbles per 90, which I think he could actually get a lot better if he was given the freedom to express himself a bit more in that midfield, potentially even add to his 2 goals and 1 assist that he's had this season. Brighton, Pascal Gross. I'll be honest, I originally wrote this segment for Simon Adingra, but I just couldn't live with myself. I would be doing Gross injustice if I didn't include him, because he is just a joke. He has 10 assists so far this season, which is joint best in the league, and you've got to remember he plays either in a CDM role or as a right back, and he averages 80.4 passes per 90, which is only bettered by Rodri, Ruben Diaz, and his 2 teammates Duncan Van Hecke. He's also equal with Bruno Fernandes with 3 key passes per match, and he has a good set piece on him. He's everything you could want in a midfielder, and yet despite all of that, he is still underperforming compared to his expected data, so we could even see a lot more from him. Burnley, it's Jordan Bayer. In a struggling Burnley team, it was hard to pick one specific player that really stood out. I think it was between Trafford and Bayer for me. And in the starting 11, he lines up alongside Dara O'Shea. But since getting injured against Aston Villa, he has been replaced with the Frenchman Esteve? Regardless, the German averages 3.1 long balls per match, and he has the second highest success rate in the squad with 89.1%, which means he should have no problems getting back into the team when he's fit. Also, here's a good stat for you. He ranks 10th in the league for blocks per 90, which, can I say, is equal to Van Dijk. I'm just saying. Next up is Chelsea, and this one was much easier. It's Cole Palmer. I think we were all a little bit surprised at the summer when we saw him join from Man City for 45 million. And what has been a very underwhelming season for Pochettino, Palmer is definitely a glimmer of hope with his 10 goals and 7 assists so far this season. No player in the Chelsea squad makes more key passes per game than he does with 1.5, and he also is equal with the most shots taken out of the squad with 2.5 per 90, which definitely makes him the ultimate playmaker. And at just 21 years old, this kid is destined, surely, to go into Gareth Southgate's England squad, as he can play either in a number 10 or on that right attacking midfielder or the right wing position, and he can cut in with that left foot and find a through ball, which we definitely could see the likes of Harry Kane or Ollie Watkins getting on the end of. If Chelsea do manage to win anything this season, it's definitely going to be because of something he has done, and I can assure you it will not be the Carabao Cup. If you'd like to see how Klopp's kids beat a Chelsea team in the Carabao Cup final, then I have a video all about how they did that and the tactics that they used. So go and give that a watch after this if you're interested. Up next is Crystal Palace, and it's Michael Olise. Whilst the Frenchman has only featured 11 times so far this season, I think it's undeniable that he is an incredibly talented player and destined for a big move. In the 11 games that he has featured, he's got 6 goals and 3 assists, and only Jordan Ayew has more goal contributions so far this season with 10, but it did take him 24 games to get there. But he's also just really fun to watch, isn't he? He has a great free kick on him. It'll be interesting to see where he lines up in a Glasner team, alongside the likes of Eze, Mateta, Edouard. Where does he fit in? I think he'll probably start as that right attacking midfielder, that right winger position in that front three that we've seen Glasner play before, and cut inside with that left foot. Do you know who he almost reminds me of? Oh yeah, the last player, Cole Palmer. Just Olise has a much better head of hair and is French. Everton, it's Jarrad Branthwaite. He's only going to keep getting better, and he's only 21. He has been crucial to that back line for Everton under Sean Dyche. Last season he had a decent loan spell at PSV. He helped them finish second in the Eredivisie behind Feyenoord, but we've really seen him flourish as a left-sided and left-footed centre-back, as well as being 6'4", meaning he dominates in the air. And I think next season we could see him at a bigger team, especially if Everton go down, and he might not be too expensive, so I definitely think he'll be on a lot of teams' radars over the summer, maybe the likes of Chelsea, Man United, someone like that I would be expecting to see him in next season. Fulham, we could have been talking about this player in a Bayern Munich shirt this season, but instead he's made this list. It's João Paulinho. The man is an absolute machine, and I'm not even sure what Fulham would do without him. I think other than Man City, he probably slots into every team in the league, maybe even in like most of Europe. And the stats do tend to agree with me. Not only does he average 1.9 interceptions per 90, but he also makes a whopping 4.8 tackles a game, which is considerably the most in the league. Next is Vinicius Souza of Sheffield United. So that says something really, doesn't it? The only thing I will say is I think his discipline is a bit of an issue. He's constantly picking up yellow cards, but I don't think that takes anything away from how good he is. I do want to give a shout out to Anthony Robinson as well, though, because I think he's genuinely been incredible this season. I think he's potentially been one of the best left backs in the league outside the top 6, maybe just generally in the league within the top 6, I guess. Is that too far? I don't think so. I'm going to stick with it. I think he's been really good this season, so it was hard for me to pick Paulinho over him, but I do just think Paulinho, he's been incredible again this season. Liverpool, it won't surprise you to hear it's Mo Salah. I do, however, want to stress how long I spent deciding on who to pick for this Liverpool team, because I think there were multiple players that I could have put forward, like Van Dijk, McAllister, potentially even Darwin Núñez. I think they've all been great, but Salah has yet again been putting up the numbers, and even though he missed a fair few games through AFCON and then getting injured, he ranks second for goal contributions in the league with 15 goals and 9 assists. And he starts at right wing, and only Haaland and Núñez have taken more shots per 90 than he does. I mean, he's just world class, isn't he? How can you not pick him? Hopefully, though, he goes to Saudi soon, and then we don't have to watch Chelsea get terrorised by him. That would be great, please. Thank you. Luton, I have gone with Ross Barkley. The man who I think we all thought his career could have reached much higher heights than what it actually has done. But this year at Luton, Barkley is having an incredible season, and he's showing what he's capable of doing when he's playing under that right system. Under Rob Edwards, he plays as a double pivot, often alongside like Lokonga in that midfield, which is deeper than we're used to seeing him, especially under like Chelsea or Everton. He'd play as almost like a number 10. He's now dropping back, and he's almost trying to dribble the ball into the attack or find that key pass. And in fact, he even ranks 4th in the league for dribbles per game with 2.3. And he does attempt the most passes out of every player in the Luton team as well. I think he's their hub for creativity. And even though he only has 3 goals and assists this season, I think this role has unlocked a new part of Ross Barkley that we hadn't seen before. He's got a bit more of everything. I think he's got a bit more sense of attacking and dropping back. He's not always selfish in the attacks. And what I think is quite crucial is that he's 30 years old now. He's one of the oldest in that Luton team. So if they want to stay up, he's going to be crucial in creating this winning mentality to really convince that squad what they need to do to stay in the Premier League for next season. But I'm really enjoying watching him. A shout out as well does go to Alfie Doughty. I think he's been incredible as well this season. His crosses have been crucial. You see how many goals Luton score from crosses and headers, and he's definitely someone to keep an eye on for the future. He's 24 years old, I believe, but he's still got a hell of a future ahead of him, I think, and he could, if Luton go down, I definitely think he'll stay in the Premier League. Man City, it's Rodri. But Cameron, what about Haaland? You know, what about Haaland? Yes, we know he's like probably the best goal scorer in the world right now, but we know Man City have other players like Alvarez, Foden, Bernardo Silva, who can all chip in with goals as well. And we've seen Man City win the league without Haaland. So, yes, he gets them more goals. But look at where they are this season. They're not dominating again, are they? Whereas Rodri is just essential. I mean, why would they have let Calvin Phillips leave, who was incredible at Leeds? It's because they just didn't need him, because Rodri is just undroppable. Man City have started the game without him 3 times this season. And guess how many of them 3 that they've won? None. Because he's just so good. They dominate the ball around their opponent's box, and he almost just becomes the centre of it all. He's the base of that midfield and of all their attacks, but he can drop back as well. And no player averages more passes per game than he does in the league. He's just always on the ball. And he has 6 goals as well to go alongside his 5 assists. He always seems to clutch up at the right moments. When they need a winning goal, he finds it. And I think the thing that stands out for me with Rodri is we saw in 2021 in the Champions League final against Chelsea, Pep didn't start Rodri and they ended up losing that final. And then fast forward to last season, and he scored their winning goal for the Champions League. It was almost meant to be, really, wasn't it? I'll be honest, other than Bellingham, I do think he's probably the best midfielder in the world right now. Let me know what you guys think. I just think he's incredible, and I don't know what Man City would do if they didn't have him. Next is Manchester United, and I've gone with Alejandro Garnacho. You're probably screaming at me, why not Bruno? Why not McTominay? Why not Anthony? Okay, maybe not Anthony. It's almost like, you know when you buy a pack of strawberries, right? Stay with me here. And they're all mouldy, but you need to use one, so you just have to pick out the least mouldy one. I mean, at this point, you're probably going to throw them all away, aren't you? But you have to pick out the least mouldy one. You're just picking out... Garnacho was the best of a bad bunch, really. They've just not been great. They've not really had any standout players, but here we are. I don't think Bruno is having a great season, and we've seen McTominay has scored some really crucial goals for them this season, but he doesn't really start. And yes, Højlund has shown some glimpses of being a clinical top-class finisher, which is what they need, but... And Garnacho at just 19, I think he really shows what the future of Man United could be. He averages 2.5 shots per game, which is the same as Bruno, so he definitely does try and create something. And he's probably scored goal of the season, hasn't he? That bicycle kick against Everton, I mean, it was a good goal. I won't lie, it was a good goal. But he has 5 goals and 3 assists this season, which isn't great, but I definitely think he could build on that next season. And I just think he's got a great future, so I had to include him. Newcastle, Kieran Trippier. I could have gone for Anthony Gordon as well, but when you've got defenders' stats and averaging 10 assists in a season so far, like Kieran Trippier has, I just had to include him. No player in the league has more crosses per game than he does, and he ranks 7th as well for most key passes per game with 2.5. And he's also better than he was last year. We remember how good he was last year. He's got better stats already. He's got 3 more assists than what he achieved in the 2022-23 season. But I am a bit worried. Newcastle have started to drop out of form. I think he's just got injured. Is he going to keep it up? I don't know. I'm not entirely convinced. But what I do know is that he has been great in my FPL team this season. So if he could stay fit and get some more assists, that would be perfect. Thank you, Kieran. Nottingham Forest. And I've gone for Murillo. Whilst Forest haven't been brilliant this season, I think they've had a few standout players with the likes of Alanga, Dominguez, even Awaniyi again has been great, and they all show positive signs. But under Nuno Espirito Santos, I can't remember if has he got an S on the end? I can't remember. But we know he likes to line up in a back five formation, and they have looked pretty solid defensively. And I think Murillo epitomises a young ball-playing defender, something that we're going to see in the future a lot more. He often looks for that long ball forward or tries to dribble the ball into the midfield out from the defence to relieve some pressure for that Forest backline. He also averages 0.8 successful dribbles per 90, which is the most out of any defender in the league. And whilst he's not exactly the tallest, he does manage to clear the ball 6 times per 90, which is quite good. I think only Ethan Pinnock has more in the league. So he definitely knows what he's doing. I could almost see him as like a future Thiago Silva, maybe? Too far? Maybe. But I do think this guy's got a great future ahead of him. He's only 21 years old, and he's definitely going to be... He's just going to get better with time. Sheffield, and I'm going with Gus Hamer. I think following his move from Coventry in the summer, he certainly proved he's ready for the Premier League. And whilst this has been a shocking season for Sheffield, I can say with confidence, actually, that I think they'll be back in the Championship next year. But who I don't think will be in the Championship next year is Hamer. I think he's proven himself that he deserves to be in the Premier League. And when he plays, he often lines up in that midfield three. At least under Chris Wilder, we've seen him and Paul Heckingbottom line up in that midfield three. And whilst he's not exactly the most obvious number 10, he pushes forward alongside Mukati to support the striker, almost becoming a number 10. And he averages 1.6 key passes per 90, which, surprise, is the best in their squad. He's also their top assister, but again, only with 3. But I like him. Spurs, Heung-min Son, Ange's star man. I mean, since Kane left, it's kind of been Son's role to fill, to become their best player. And while the likes of Van der Ven, Vicario, Porro have all had great seasons, it's Heung-min Son. No player has outperformed their XG as much as he had. He's got 13 goals, which is 5 more than his expected 8. While Harry Kane's disappeared to Germany, we've seen him occupy that striker role like we expected a bit more. Even though the likes of Richarlison and Werner are around, he still often lines up as that striker, becoming the focal point of Ange's team. And I just like it. He seems to fit their system quite well. West Ham, James Ward-Prowse. Everybody should be on the JWP train because he's having yet another underrated season. Mr. Reliable as well, because he's got the second most minutes out of everyone in the Hammers squad. I think only Jared Bowen's got more. And he's got 12 goal contributions to show for it. His 2 crosses a game as well rank him 5th in the league. And as we know, his set pieces are a bit of a joke. Just a little bit of a joke. But what I really love about him, though, is how actually he can transition anywhere in that midfield. He can start as a number 10 alongside Paqueta and Kudus, but he could also drop back, play alongside Alvarez and Souček. He can kind of play CDM, centre mid, cam, and it doesn't really faze him. Especially alongside Souček, where one can go forward and one can drop back. They both average 1.3 tackles and 1.1 interceptions per game. And whilst, yes, Bowen and Paqueta are crucial to West Ham's success this season, I just think James Ward-Prowse has been incredible. He just goes so under the radar, and I personally think he should be in Southgate's squad for the Euros this year. If you want me to do a video where I talk about who I think should make Gareth's squad, let me know and I will try and work on that. But for me, James Ward-Prowse makes the plane. Finally, it's Wolves, and I've gone with Mateus Cunha. Following his big money move from Atletico Madrid, we all had high expectations for the Brazilian under Lopetegui last season. He was particularly underwhelming with only 2 goals and no assists. he was quite poor, really, wasn't it? But fast forward to now, under Gary O'Neill, and he's got 9 goals and 6 assists. And I think the main difference has been how he's been played. Under Gary O'Neill, he seems to be more of a striker, especially as Wolves lack a striker at the moment, so he's filled that role. Whereas last season under Lopetegui, he was more of a number 10, feeding the likes of Hwang Hee-chan and Diogo Costa, Kalajdzic as well. And I think that has actually helped him become a better goal scorer, and it kind of puts a bit more pressure on him, but he's thrived under it. He does average 2.2 dribbles per game and 2.5 shots per game, which is the best out of the Wolves squad. And annoyingly, he scored a hat-trick against Chelsea in that 4-2 battering, which shows how much he's improved. Regretfully. There we go. That is every team's best players so far this season. Let me know if you think I got any of them wrong. I know there was a few teams where there was multiple people that could be put forward, but they're who I've chosen. Let me know if you think I got any wrong, and make sure to go and watch that video on how Klopp's kids beat Chelsea in the Carabao Cup final. If you want to see me angry, that's where to go watch it. But thank you guys very much for watching. I'll probably see you in a couple of days with another tactic breakdown. See you guys soon. Have a good weekend.